The Seattle Mariners were able to win the series down in Texas. Joe and I are going to go over all three games and what that heartbreaking loss in the third game means for the standings moving forward. We'll then break down the wild card for the Seattle Mariners and if it's still possible for them to win the division. And we'll wrap it all up by talking about the Houston Astros series coming up starting today. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 124 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav Network, available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. Be sure to give us a 5-star review and listen all the way through, for God's sake. Come on now. And this episode 124 is the Kyle Jones episode of the podcast. Joe, I know that you are excited about the Kyle Jones episode. That's our guy, but let me know in your words how you're feeling.
Well, I'm just going to lay it out right now. Kyle Jones, special guy, special person. He's not watching it all the way through, though. Like, that was a big ask from you in that intro. I appreciate your conviction. But like pairing that with the Kyle Jones episode, it's a mismatch completely. But I get where your heart's at. I get where your head's at. I'm excited. Only because it's the Kyle Jones episode. Everything else about my thought process about this team right now is in the gutter. I thought this final game against Texas was a lock. I felt great about the team as a whole throughout this entire series. And I think a lot of people felt the same way going into Sunday with Brian Wu on the mound and just the way, like the trajectory of the game, how it was kind of playing out. I feel like a lot of people felt very good, but there are some key moments that we have to touch on here shortly, but quickly, a word from BetOnline. Thank you to BetOnline for being a sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. And yes, I know baseball season only got about 2 weeks left, but guys, the football NFL regular season, it's in full swing. And if you think you know your stuff, get in on the $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. An offensive outburst that we've been waiting for the entire season. Julio Rodriguez in game 1, 3 for 5, 5 RBI, 2 bombs, Colton, 1 in the 5th, 1 later in the 7th, both off of lighter, so suck it. Josh Rojas got this game started with the scoring, a home run to right center off of Jacob deGrom. Didn't know that was still in Josh Rojas's bag there, but overall, Kirby pitched well in this game, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned. Like, it was good enough because the Mariners offense would score 8. So 2, chump change, struck out 4. George Kirby, I'd say this is the exact kind of start that you needed to kick off the first game. Paired with like how the offense was, you didn't have to go to like your big leverage guys. You used Thornton, you used Chargois, you used Bizardo. Finished out this game clean slate there at the end for those 3 relievers, but you tagged Leiter for 6 earned runs. Like, bro just didn't have it. He scored 8 in this first game. Really set the tone offensively for how this like rest of this series kind of felt like it was heading like that direction specifically. I mean, Cal didn't have a great game, but he didn't necessarily need to have a good game with guys like Robles, Julio, both having great games in front of him. So this game 1, it was a tone center for what I think we wanted for the rest of this series. And I think we got more of that in game 2 as well.
Yeah, you talked about Julio's offensive outburst, and there was more of it in game 2 as well. Julio hit another home run, had 4 RBIs, and went 4 for 6 in this game. A great game for Jorge Polanco as well. Overall, the Mariners lineup put up another 8 runs, which is huge for this team. They have looked a lot better offensively, and Emerson Hancock started this game. It was Dane Dunning on the other side. I Bleav it was Max Scherzer's calf, right?
Yep.
That he was scratched because of. So Dane Dunning started the game for the Rangers. The Mariners have been able to take care of Dunning in the past, so it was good to see that. Emerson Hancock did his job once again. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, only 2 earned with 3 strikeouts. Emerson Hancock, he came up for Luis Castillo. He's been set down now, which we'll talk about later. But he came up, pitched 2 games for the Mariners, and kept them in both games, and I Bleav the Mariners won both games.
Yep.
That Emerson Hancock started. So round of applause for Emerson Hancock in this one. But yeah, Joe, going into this game, game 2, it's another game where you got to take it. You got to basically win them all. You know what I'm saying? And another 8-4 win really set the Mariners up for what seemed like could be a feel-good sweep going into game 3, but unfortunately that was not the case.
Yeah, and I kind of laid it out at the beginning of like, things were going really well. Like, you score too early, you get 2 runs off of Feeney in the second and the third. Maybe you could have had some more, but again, you take what you can get with how good Bryan Woo has looked. Aside from his previous start, he's looked pretty solid all year. That 2-ish runs could be enough to scathe by until the bullpen kind of takes over. But you do get 3 more in the 6th inning. You give Bryan Woo a 5-run lead there. Obviously, previously, before that 6th inning, Cal hits his 31st home run, setting a new career high, joining Mike Piazza as the second catcher ever to have 90 home runs in his first 4 or 5, I think it's 4 seasons, whatever. Really good for Cal. If he can stay hot, get the power stroke a little bit back. If he can get hot again going to last 6 games, that would be huge. But yeah, the top of the 6th, Mariners score 3 runs. You're thinking, all right, we're good. There's a 5-run lead. And then it gets to Bryan Woo, and he was kind of cruising up until this point, but it starts with a Taveras single, a Semien single, a Josh Smith RBI single, 5-1 now, and then Wyatt Langford comes up, having given up 3 hits in a row. Colton, I'm pulling Bryan Woo right there. You tweeted it. This is a must-win game. Dan left him in for too long. I think those 3 hits all coming in a row, right? They're all in a row, correct? It wasn't like there was an out in between them. I think they were all I think they were all consecutive.
Doesn't matter.
Because
Taveras 3 hits in the inning.
Yeah, Taveras is the 9-hitter, Semien's the 1, Josh Smith is the 2, right? You give up 3 hits in a row, you're in the 6th inning. I think that's plenty of a time to be like, okay, this is the time to call to the pen. You've got Langford coming up. You have plenty of righties in your pen available to go out there and hopefully get out of a jam. First pitch swinging, Bryan Woo left in. Wyatt Langford hits a 3-run tank to make this a 1-run game. Why do you think Bryan Woo was left in?
Honestly, this is just a mistake on Dan Wilson's fault. Like the first real, I guess, pitching staff mistake that I can point to and say, yeah, that's on Dan. Like, bad pitch by Bryan Woo, absolutely, but it's pretty clear. Like, I mean, if we were all thinking it, it's pretty clear that it was time for him to come out. 3rd time through the lineup, they're clearly seeing him better. 3 hits in a row with one of the biggest masters in the lineup coming up. It seems like, a very, clear and concise answer to take out Bryan Woo. And people can argue, oh, well, their bullpen's taxed, blah, blah. I don't care. You have 7 games left. Throw guys every game the rest of the season. I don't care. You have either the opportunity to rest a guy this day or have him pitch and then have the chance to not have to rest him for another month. Mm-hmm. Whereas you can actually play games for another month. Or you could rest a guy and then have him not pitch and then have him rest for the next 4 months while they sit their asses on the couch in October. And that's what Dan chose to do. He chose to leave Bryan Woo in there to pitch through the rest of that inning, and he almost gave up the game right then and there. It almost became, I think, the runners on 2nd and 3rd when he got the final out. Bryan Woo looked horrible in that inning. It was very clear he was gassed. It was very clear it was time for him to come out. It was very clear the Rangers were seeing him better. Everybody knew it, I guess, except for Dan Wilson. I don't know. Again, this is Dan's, the one mistake I can really point to and say that's on Dan, since he became manager. I'm sure there's been others, but this is the one that sticks out. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I mean, you're against the defending World Series champions on their replica ring giveaway day in the last home game of the season for them. Yeah, they're not going to roll over and die.
Yeah.
And it's bad move by Dan Wilson. The bullpen can't hold it down. There was another home run given up in the 7th inning.
Yeah, Shark.
Off of Shark Wah. And then, of course, Andres Munoz giving it up in the 9th inning there. And the Mariners' offense was dead to rights at that point. You have the back end of that Rangers bullpen, which is the only good part of their bullpen, coming in. Their offense is dead to rights. Honestly, I would not have been mad, and this might be a little crazy. I would not have been mad to see when Langford came up to have Andres Munoz go right there.
Damn.
Shut it down immediately.
In the 6th inning. I mean, yeah, it's 1 out. If he gets him out quick, he can go back out there for Garcia, Lowe, and Heim the following inning, and then you try and patch together the end of that game. I don't hate it. I just know that that's never gonna happen.
Right.
That's an MLB The Show move where you go out in there and you grab your best guy. But that's kind of how the Mariners have pitched their bullpen. Is in moments where they need their best guy to go, they're not scared to use him when it's not the 9th inning. And maybe it's because they had used Snyder and Troy Taylor extensively in I think both in the game before. And maybe they felt like they didn't have them available. So like they wanted to make sure they had Munoz late available in this game. But Chargois comes in. Could Chargois have come in and gotten Langford out instead of giving up, like Woo giving up the home run? Maybe, but I always kind of go back to like, we're just playing a game of what ifs in the situations. Like someone could have came in and Langford still could have hit a home run, right? Like, but in a vacuum, the move there is to pull Woo because he's given up 3 hits in a row and go to your bullpen for a fresh look, essentially. And also with like you option Emerson Hancock, you have Gabe Spire, not say Gabe Spire is the move there, but like you have a fresh arm in your pen. Like you have to be aggressive. You have to win this game. This is a moment where it's do or die. You cannot let this one slip away. That three-run bomb was the turning of the momentum to the Rangers' favor, 100%.
If this game was in May, I would have never questioned it. Leave Woo out there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Sure. But when you have 7 games left, like, no. You have to manage every single game like it's a playoff game, and they didn't. They didn't. And maybe that's just, like, inexperience on Dan's part. I don't know. But in a game where we already had seen the Twins lose earlier in the day, and we knew they had another game coming up in that doubleheader, like you had a chance to gain ground on them. You knew that the Astros at that point were, well, maybe not at that point. I think they had actually made a comeback versus the Angels at that point. But what happened? The Astros were crazy.
They had the winning run on first base, all done with 2 outs. They scored 2 runs, had runners on first and third.
And Jeremy Pena struck out at a ball at his knees.
Well, but yeah, no, if they had won that game, I twisting the knife more from the loss from the Mariners. Like that just would have been bad.
If they had won that game, they're cheating again.
Make the video.
Rage bait.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, this was a must-win game and you lost it. And because of that, going into this Houston Astros series, Joe, the Mariners will, I can say with nearly 100% certainty, they will be watching the Astros clinch the division in Minute Maid Park over the next 3 days. It will happen. Because the only way the Mariners can win this division is by winning every single game the rest of the way and having the Astros lose every single game the rest of the way. That's not going to happen.
It would be a miracle.
The Mariners will be watching the Houston Astros clinch a division that was once owned by the Mariners by 10 games. They will be watching them clinch it at home in Minute Maid Park, and I hope it hurts. I hope it is a slap to the face of every single player on that ball club to say, yeah, we didn't do our job. And I hope it's a learning experience. I do. Because frankly, they didn't. The Mariners have nobody to blame but themselves. You can point the blame in a million different directions. It's a team game. Everybody is to blame. Like, you cannot point to a single person, even Cal Raleigh. I love Cal. I'm sure there's plenty of mistakes he made that have cost the Mariners at least 1 win throughout the year. Like, everybody is to blame. So that means we have to look at the wild card, Joe. And over the past few days, it has gotten a lot more interesting as the Kansas City Royals continue to just suck. They have lost their last 7 games, Joe. We already know the Minnesota Twins lost 2 games today that we're recording this. The Tigers are hot as the sun. Where does that leave the Mariners in the wild card standings?
As it stands right now, we are 2 games back, but I think every single team now, we will have to finish a game better than. I don't think that weird tiebreaker with the Royals is still in play due to us losing against the Rangers. I think we had to win out because the rest of our opponents were against the AL West. Since we tied the season series with the Royals, then that tiebreaker with them specifically goes to record within your own division. For the Mariners to have a better record within the AL West than the Royals did within the AL Central, we had to win out 7-0 to own that tiebreaker, I believe.
Yeah. Now, if the Mariners won out the rest of the way, they would be tied. In which case, it goes to interdivision, so it's the rest of the league minus the division they're in. In which case, the Mariners lose that tiebreaker.
Got it. So
points. You know what was way easier? Just game 163.
Yeah.
This is so stupid.
Game 163 is lit. Like, definitely a lot more, just better memories than having to scheme around all the different, like, tiebreaker scenarios. But to put it plain and simple, if you're looking at standings at any point over the next couple of days, if you see a game back for the Mariners, add 1 to it, because you have to finish a game better than what your current standings are against those 3 teams ahead of you, because you do not own any tiebreakers over them. The Tigers, 82-74. The Royals, 82-74. Those are the 2 teams occupying the wild card spots right now. The Twins, obviously losers of 2 in a doubleheader, 3-7 their last 10. A game back at 81-75. The Mariners 80-76. 2 games back, they would have been tied with the Twins had they won against the Rangers. Obviously, we'd still be behind them due to tiebreakers, but a game closer to the to this whole thing would feel a lot better than being a game further out, because your margin for error now is none. Like, I thought the idea of going 9-0 over your last 9 games was supremely far-fetched. But with how like other teams are playing, like needing other teams to lose, that was like, that's the best case scenario. Now the best you can do is 8-1. Now you have to do that against the Astros and the Athletics. Like, had you swept the Rangers, you could have maybe lost the game to the Astros and then gone to say like 5-1 over the last 6 and maybe felt better about your chances going 8-1. But since now you have to go perfect against the Astros and the Athletics to, I'd say, really have a shot at it. Like, if you go 6-0, 2 out of these 3 teams just have to go 3-3, essentially. Like, the Twins, I think, can go like 4-2. No, I don't see. It gets all weird because there's weird tiebreakers. Like, the Mariners start their series on Monday. Everyone else starts their series on Tuesday because the Mariners have an off day on Thursday. Like, the wild card, it's a mess. You should have won the final game against the Rangers because it's just an uphill battle now, with especially like the quality of opponents the rest of the way. Like, every team has a good opponent, I would say, at least a decent opponent, and then a not so good opponent. Mariners obviously have the Astros and the Athletics. The Twins have the Marlins for 3, and then they finish out against the Orioles. The Royals have the Nationals for 3. They finish out against the Braves. The Tigers have 3 against the Rays, and then 3 against the White Sox, who will likely have set the most losses in a singular season by that time. Like, I said, the margin for error is low. I think you have to be perfect the rest of the way to really have a chance.
So if the teams in front of us, so if everybody plays to their record over the past 10 games, right? So let's say the Royals play to a 20% win percentage over the next 10 games, right? Or over the next 6 games. That'd be what?
I mean, going 1-5. I mean, that's like a 16.7 repeating win percentage. So like, you round up, that's 20%. So like, maybe they go 1-5.
Right. So in that case, let's say that if the Royals go 1-5, Mariners have to go what, 4-2?
Yes.
In that scenario. So like, yeah, right now the Mariners are 3 games back with 6 to play. Like, you pretty much have to be perfect the rest of the way, because you lost today's game. Like, today's game is, obviously there are plenty of games throughout the season. The Angels series obviously stands out. Even the Tigers series. Well, clearly the Tigers are better than everyone except for Joe thought.
I'm mad about it.
And clearly the Royals are about what everybody thought except for me. So
yeah.
But yeah, so in that scenario, let's say the Mariners have to go 4-2. Like, it's possible. Like, that's basically what are they playing at right now? A 60% win percentage? That's what that would be, a 60% win percentage, would it not? So if everybody plays to how they have their last 10 games, sure, it could happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're playing the Astros at home. Like, we know that Minute Maid Park is a house of horrors for the Seattle Mariners. I hope they can just win the series. I don't see sweeping as an option. That's not going to happen. Maybe you can sweep at home versus the Athletics and have some crazy like Cinderella run. Season's probably over. Like just looking at the teams in front of you, the fact that you don't hold a tiebreaker against any of them, there's a decent chance the Mariners are tied with at least one of these 3 teams at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And because of that, what's interesting now is that Wildcard 2 is now open. Like, it's anybody's game, Wildcard 2. And so that's where I'm like, okay, let's say the Mariners do, go a little crazy Rama, right? And go like 5-1 over the last 6, and they make it into Wildcard 2. Then they don't have to go to Minute Maid to face the Astros.
They go to Camden to face the
Orioles. They go to Camden. And the Orioles have been ass. They're 3-7 in their last 10. The Orioles have fallen off a cliff. And don't get me wrong, they're still going to take Wildcard 1 no matter what. But yeah, so it's interesting to see where the placement is with all of that. A lot has to go right for the Mariners moving forward over this next week for them to have any semblance of a chance. Obviously, we're going to be scoreboard watching every single night And if the Mariners win, but like another team loses or another team wins, like your chances just drop immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to just when you see these teams win, you have to know in the back of your head, okay, well, that we're probably not catching that team if one of these teams wins a game, and it's bound to happen. So, like you said, Mariners probably need to be perfect. It sucks, but they did it to themselves. That is where we were at in this season, Joe. And as we look ahead to the rest of this Mariners season, it's not going to get any easier going into Houston.
Not at all, but you do have a pretty good pitching matchup in game one. Bryce Miller, who's been like that step forward in the sophomore year, phenomenal, right? I think the leap that he's taken from his rookie season to his sophomore year, as far as secondaries are concerned, composure on the mound, not letting the big hit really get to him. I'm feeling pretty good just about like his presence as being a gamer, being on the mound, not allowing the moment to become too big. It's a good start, I think, for him to really set the tone against Hunter Brown, a guy that I think a lot of people have maybe put Bryce Miller and Hunter Brown like in conversations, not necessarily like with each other, but like against each other. It's like two starting pitchers who were rookies last year. How are they performing in their second year? Are they leading their team to victories? Both of them are. Hunter Brown had a terrible start to 2024, has turned it around tremendously. Bryce Miller, I think he's been a pillar of success pretty much the entire season. There was a bit of a rough patch, but he's definitely calmed it down. Again, this Houston series, it's make or break. You have to go in there and you cannot let your foot off the gas in any way, shape, or form. You have to play it like it is your last game. You have to play it like it is elimination or bust. Last time we saw that for the Mariners, I mean, they kind of rolled over at some points last year at the end of September, but I don't know, man. The way the offense has looked, I feel a lot better about the team as a whole going forward. There's been some tough footing in the bullpen, maybe some growing pains. Like Troy Taylor, Colin Snyder, both have showed that they're human at times. Again, major props to them. They have been amazing plugged in at the back end of that pen in place of Matt Brash, in place of Gregory Santos. You need everyone to be a well-oiled machine. The offense is starting to click. It's maybe what we would have expected out of it the entire year, but now you're getting it in the last month and a half-ish. If that is the difference between the Mariners making the playoffs or making a run at it and like keeping the hope alive versus rolling over and dying if the offense goes in there and strikes out 18 times in a singular game and just rolls over, like they show us what they were previously this year, it's going to be a very tough pill to swallow, but maybe a reality check that like I might need, because I have been in fantasy la la land, not in like basically like in denial of how the season is probably likely going to end for a while, and I'm well aware of that, because I just want to hold on to hope, because like it's better for me as a fan of like watching the games. Don't be wrong, I screamed the F word pretty loud when Marcus Semien hit the ball, and then I did it on stream as well. So not with my mic muted. But yeah, I think as far as what you're looking at in this series, the biggest difference to me between the Mariners and the Astros is going to be composure. It's going to be veteran leadership on either side. Astros have been there, done that. They've got numerous guys that have been there, done that. The Mariners, they're lacking in that department, to put it lightly. Like they just don't have the same quality of veteran leadership or veteran talent that has been there as much as Houston. Will that be the deciding factor? Will that be the difference maker? It could be. Jordan might not be in this series. Right. Exited the game on Sunday with, I think it was like a hamstring issue after sliding in after hitting a double. That could be a thing going into the series. Like if you're not having to face Jordan, the lineup, yeah, it's still scary. Kyle Tucker's
Altuve still hurt?
No, he was playing.
Oh, okay.
But like Kyle Tucker's back and he's looked great. Like there's still problems up and down that Astros lineup. But if you remove Jordan, yes, that is one less problem you have to deal with. I just don't know if the Mariners will have enough like gas in the tank to really get it done throughout all three games.
My worry is the last game in Texas, like, is one of those games that just kills it.
Sure.
Like the way that game ended, the wind that it probably took out of the sails of these guys, they have to go into this Houston series hungry. They have to go into it, like you said, Make or break, elimination. If we lose, first of all, if we lose this game, we have to watch the cheaters dance on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And to all the cool Astros fans in our comments, that was a joke. To like the Anthony Martinez of the world, you can suck my ass. But I think that it's like you said, the Astros have composure. They've done this a million times. It's to be expected of them to win the division now. Like it'll be weird when they don't. Like, you know, every year, oh, the Astros are inevitable. Like, it's to be expected. It's true. I mean, as Mariners fans, we hate it, but it's true. And it is what it is. They're a great baseball team. They are run very well. And I think that because of that, a Mariners team that hasn't really been there before, and the bright lights have seemed to get to them this year, I think that there's a possibility that the Mariners go in there and just get shelled because of the wind being taken out of the sails. You know what I mean? And I promise you, like, we already have our Twitter notifications muted. Okay. So because I know for a fact.
Oh, that post is going to go crazy.
That as soon as they clinch, that post is going to, what's it at right now? I'm going to see how many views it's at right now, Joe. I have to know. I want to say last I looked, it was at 421K views.
Yeah.
And I bet you it jumps up over 500. Let's see here.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It is currently at 421K. The day the Astros clinch, book it. It will be over 500K. How many comments do we have on that bad boy right now? There is 205 bookmarks.
Sick.
142 quotes and 172 reposts. Quotes it's going to go up over 200.
Yeah, it's just going to say update. Yeah, always good when the Astros lose, right? Update. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Is that the moment the season turned poor? Was me tweeting that the demise of the Mariners?
Yes, actually.
I
wonder what their record is since then.
All the Astros accounts have to know what our record is since then.
They got locked in.
Since they totally don't care about us that much
at all,
for sure. Going into game 2, Colton. Framber Valdez is on the mound. The Astros have their rotation lined up very well against Seattle. Okay, it's Hunter Brown game 1, Framber Valdez in game 2. It is to be determined for the Mariners as it stands right now, but this would be Logan Gilbert's place in the rotation, I believe, after Bryce Miller. 35 and 41 since Cal Raleigh cemented his legacy. Fantastic. Yeah. No. But if it's Framber versus Logan, that's a great pitching matchup. Logan past 200 strikeouts. I've talked about it a lot. Really great for him. Like continuing to kind of just add on to a fantastic season. 34 and 39.
Yeah. It was from the 28th, not the 24th.
Oh, sorry. Regardless, still not good. Would rather those numbers be switched. It's a great pitching matchup. And Framber is a gamer. He has been in there in the big moments. And if there's a game that you're going to lose, even with Logan on the mound, like going up against Framber's tough. Have the Mariners gotten to him in the past? Yes. I feel like the like tone around the team at that time when we dropped 5 on his head in the first 5 innings or whatever is much different than it is right now. And we just saw Josh Hader kind of have an implosion blown save against the Angels on the final game on Sunday. Is that more to, is there more to that going into this Mariner series? You kind of have to hope that's going to get in his head. You have to, because if you get into a situation where you're down late and Hader's on the mound and he has his best stuff, you're screwed because he's one of the best in the game, hands down. This second game, it's like, I honestly just, I don't know. I don't want to say anything. You have to win these games. Like, you can't lose any of them. And if it's Framber, if it's Hunter Brown, the final game, their trade deadline acquisition that we kind of all clowned them for, like they gave up too much. They've won I think all but one.
Every game.
Oh, they've won every game, right. I think the last one was against the Angels. The Angels scored early, but then the Astros kind of battled back because the Angels are bad. They've won every game that Kikuchi started for them. It's Kikuchi versus George Kirby. It's not announced on MLB.com, but that's the churn through the rotation for the Mariners of how it would line up. George pitched well enough against the Rangers. This Astros team is better than Texas. well, it's all in Texas. That was weird. You just have to hope that George maybe gets flashbacks. 2022 ALDS Game 3 goes the animal on the mound, Furious George, right? Just embodies every ounce of that, because you're gonna need it. That's the type of tenacity this team has to play with in this series to even have a chance. Not even at the division, because you're 5 back with 6 to play. Like you said, you have to win out. The Astros have to lose out. You just need that level of intensity to continue to push towards the wild card if it's still available to you by this time on Wednesday.
The one thing the Mariners have going for them is, like you said, the offense has looked much better. Like it's very clear that the offense is better than it was with underneath Scott Service and Jared DeHart. It's true. Like we'll I wish we'd be able to see it over a longer period of time than like 30 games, because like teams can get hot for 30 games. Obviously Julio is the best version of himself right now. Like he has been on fire. Cal has slowed down a little bit, but he did have that big home run in that last game against the Rangers. So the Mariners offense has gotten going. That's going to help them down in Houston, hopefully, against some pretty good pitchers. Like you said, it's a good team, good rotation. And with some injuries to the Astros offense, it's possible, with how good the Mariners pitching staff is, as long as these guys are who they always have been, like the Mariners could be able to hold, I'm not going to say hold them in check, because they're still a very good offensive team. But the Mariners right now have to go in firing on all cylinders. Like you said, it is do or die, Joe. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm already mentally prepared to just watch them celebrating on the field.
You're gonna watch it? I'm clicking off the game as soon as the Mariners lose a game.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm gonna watch it. I have to.
Oh,
like, you know what I mean? Because one day that should be us. It's just like when I was at ALDS Game 3 and the Astros, won and whatnot. I sat there and I watched the entire thing.
You just took it all in.
You got to take it all in. That is what a winning ball club looks like. That is what a dynasty looks like. And that is what we want the Mariners to be. They've never been it in their entire history, but that's what we want them to be. And so, I mean, you gotta be, okay with losing and seeing what it's like. And it is what it is. I will watch it. I will absolutely watch them. And even if they go out there and do the dance to clown on the Mariners, could you imagine?
They probably will. I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be shocked at all if they did that and they went out and did the dance. With that being said, however, as Astros fans love to say, they have bigger fish to fry, so they're not going to worry about that. It's like I said, it's to be expected for them to win the division, so it shouldn't really be that big of a surprise. But yeah, it's going to be a big series coming up in Houston. It's probably going to be heartbreaking, and by the end of so I said last week that we'll probably know where the Mariners are at in the playoff standings, or like if they're going to be in or out by Sunday. It's Sunday, and it got even weirder.
Yeah, so they're not in, they're not out, but it's even more confusing than it was before.
Yeah, we know they're probably not going to win the division now, so that's changed. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, even Wildcard 2 is available, so shit, man, I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, we'll probably know by the end of the Houston series. At that point, there'll only be 3 games left. If the Mariners, dude, Houston has a chance to eliminate the Mariners from the playoffs.
And that's going to do it from us on episode.
So, yeah, it's a possibility. It truly is. I think for them to be officially eliminated, the Mariners would have to get swept. But I don't know. I don't know how the math works out. I don't care, because it's not going to happen. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 124 of the Hit It Here podcast, presented by BetOnline, the E&M episode of the podcast. And go Mariners and heck the Astros.